Welcome to this Workday Industry Insights session. I'm Greg Williams, editor of Wired UK. Today we're going to discuss how you can unlock more value from your data in order to compete in the fast-changing world of financial services. And to delve into this fascinating and important issue, we have two industry experts with enormous experience. Timothy Hall is an IT professional with over 20 years' experience working in agile, fast-moving, tech-focused environments. As program and project management IT lead at IMC, a technology-driven trading firm, he's responsible for back-office systems and delivering transformational programs and projects across the globe. Georg Hauer is General Manager of DACH and Northern Europe at Berlin-based challenger bank N26 and oversees the business in 15 markets. Besides the home markets, Germany and Austria, he's also responsible for new growth markets such as Ireland, Poland, the Nordics, and Slovakia. Additionally, Georg oversees N26's Vienna Tech Hub, growing the capabilities of the development teams to support and drive further innovation across the N26 business. Great to have you with us today, guys. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with a little bit of context so that the audience understands a little bit more about IMC and N26. Tim, maybe you can kick us off and tell us a little bit more about IMC. Give us a sense of your business model.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks for the kind introduction. IMC operates in the ecosystem of the financial markets, and we are what is known as an electronic market maker. So what that means is that we are trading on over 100 different trading venues around the world. And when I say trading venues, you're thinking of NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, the FTSE. And on those venues, we're looking to offer a buy and a sell price for all of the products that we're trading on. So our business model is based around offering the most competitive price on both the buy side and the sell side of the products that we're trading. And our margin comes from the difference between the buy side and the sell side. And for us to do this, we actually need a lot of technology. So we need to be able to consume a lot of data. Prices change very, very quickly. So you're then not looking at milliseconds or microseconds. I think these days we're actually looking at nanoseconds. So we need to consume a vast amount of data, have a very well-established and developed pricing model to put the prices out to the market so that a counterpart will then trade with us.
Great, thanks, Tim. Georg, same question to you. Can you give us a bit of a sense of the N26 business model, please?
Yes, happy to do that. So N26 is a mobile bank that is operating since more than 6 years. And when we started, we have reinvented the way people bank directly on their smartphone. And we have not just created a fancy app that is used on a smartphone, but rather we really thought through how would you build a bank from scratch and how would you rebuild every single banking process. And that's why when we started, we noticed that the account opening process was a real pain for customers, because even if you could start the account opening online, very often it still involved a paper form which you had to sign and send back. And that's why, for example, today you can open an N26 account within less than 8 minutes, and you can put your card, a digital version of your card, directly on your smartphone and start banking. Data is a very important aspect of that, because at the very heart, we're not just a bank, but we are a tech company. And our objective is to leverage data in order to support our customers, the millions of customers globally, to have a better and more intuitive banking experience, and only see what's really relevant to them.
Yeah, this is super interesting. So they're very different business models, both of you have, clearly. But clearly, it's very important that data and technology is absolutely at the center of what you do. So really interested, and maybe, Tim, you could take this first again, how you connect that operational model to the back office, to finance, HR functions, things like that.
Yeah, so as a company, we have a global footprint. So we're based out of the Netherlands, but also have a large office in the US and in APAC. I think the lines between the different functions within the company are pretty short. So everyone's talking to each other, and everyone plays a very important role. So from an HR side, although we're very tech focused, very data focused, and we want We want to be the fastest out there. We also it's basically a people business, right? So we need to get the right people in. So that's where HR comes in, for both the recruiting side and then also for making sure that people develop in the right direction. Finance is really our source of truth. So our front office is about trading, and then they have their own view of the world, and obviously we have to go through the right processes to reconcile that with the outside view, and that's where the finance comes in. And there's basically data flowing between the front office and the back office on a real-time basis, and that's actually been a change over the last 10 years. In the old days, it used to be like T+1 reconciliations you would get between the front and back office, and now we really do it real time by having data coming from all required sources in real time.
Wow, so that real-time data flow is so crucial to the business. Georg, it'd be great to have your sense also of this connection between the operational model on one hand and then the back office, finance, HR functions.
Yeah. For us, the objective is to make banking and, in fact, any customer process as intuitive and simple and seamless as possible. But this doesn't extend only to customer-facing processes, but also any internal processes. And ultimately, as a tech company, we're very much a people-driven company, because it's not just technology that drives the world, but it's the people that develop this innovative technology that really move the industry. And that's why we hire globally some of the best talent in order to help us disrupt the banking industry. So for us, the bank and the people and the financial processes in the back end of our bank are at the very core of what makes our internal processes also seamless and fast and ultimately, of course, efficient.
So clearly, both of you are well aware, I don't have to tell you, that the ability for businesses to leverage data for competitive advantage has clearly been something that we've all been talking about for quite a long time now. Georg, maybe I can start with you with this next question. Can you talk a little bit about, did the pandemic shift things for you? Has COVID added extra challenges when it came to optimizing that back office operation?
Yeah. So COVID, of course, changed a lot of things, but in fact, not necessarily to the negative, because consumer behavior changed quite significantly, and the banking industry in general is moving towards digital. In fact, digital only, and people are getting used to banking online, which is very beneficial for us as an online bank. However, back offices, of course, it does create a new pressure, because it basically the crisis forces us to reprioritize certain projects, and when you have to decide whether or not your software engineers focus on developing a new customer-facing product or implementing a new ERP software internally, then typically, I mean, I know it from other companies, it would be an easy decision to deprioritize internal software. We decided, however, in contrast, to prioritize it, because we wanted to get an even stronger control over our people and financial processes. And because the bigger we grow, I mean, I remember within a few years, we grew from a few hundred, or in fact a few dozen employees, to well over 1,500 employees in multiple markets around the world. So having a really strong ERP software was essential for us, and that's why we in fact not just deprioritized it, but in fact considered it as an important strategic initiative.
Sure, it's so important for a fast growth startup like N26. Tim, clearly huge kind of market volatility over the last year. Can you talk a little bit about how the pandemic shifted for you in this context as well, please?
Yeah, so with respect to market volatility, that obviously does affect us. So the trading volumes go up, and we actually still have to be there to support the products that we're trading. So we need to build a lot of resilience into our systems to do that. And to be honest, that resilience had to be there before the pandemic, and it served us well actually during the very high volatile periods of the pandemic. So I think as a company, we always need to bring in resilience to everything we're doing, and to make sure that we can keep providing the prices that the market needs, and provide the liquidity that the market needs to keep things going. I think the pandemic actually for us was a big testing ground to really prove that in these super high volatile markets, we are actually able to to still stay there and to still stick within those markets.
Yeah. And can you give us some insight? I'm sure a lot of people watching will be really interested to know how you have leveraged data to connect that front end of the business with the back office. How have you actually thought about data in that way?
So data runs through all of our. So data runs through all of our organization, from the front to the mid to the back office. The trading aspect of it is taking data, calculating the correct prices, and then making sure we have a competitive price that goes to the market. Once a trade's been done, we then need to really reconcile in the real world. That trade is going to then adjust the prices for our next trade in that particular product. So we have data feeds going from the front to the back, and then we also have data feeds going from the outside world to our back office. And one of their main tasks is to reconcile that our real world view, or our worldview, is actually the same as the view outside that everyone else has. Because if it's wrong, we can then make wrong decisions, or we can do wrong things. So we really need to be able to, in real time, have a great understanding that what we're seeing is what the market is seeing as well. And that's how we're connecting things. We then have the finance side of things. That's a source of truth that comes more at the end of the month. So we basically get feeds from a lot of the parts of the financial markets ecosystem, the clearinghouses, which show what our positions are, and we again reconcile that with our internal positions, and that then becomes the sort of source of truth, the journal for the coming month. So we have data actually coming from everywhere and going everywhere, and it's more about reconciliation to make sure that we have the right source of truth.
Thanks, Tim. Georg, same question to you, really. How do you leverage data so that you can connect that front end of the business? Obviously, you're dealing with consumers who are expecting, a fantastic service at all moments. But obviously, there's a huge kind of, amount that has to happen under the hood to enable that. How do you connect that part of the business with the back office?
Yeah. So for us as a bank and a tech company, having accurate real-time data is essential, of course. For us, it was important that we built one internal data warehouse, which serves as a single source of truth for our understanding of the financial and non-financial KPIs. And this data warehouse is connected with all our self-built customer-facing applications. And because it's all in one ecosystem, we actually have a real-time view of our business, and not only of our customer-facing KPIs, but really all of them. And that truly helps to steer and control the company on a daily business and a daily basis, but also running it on a long run.
Right, I see. And presumably Workday has been able to support you with areas like what? Data integration, data modeling, analysis, insight. If you can talk a little bit about that, how you've built that in Workday into your operational model. Georg, maybe if you could continue, that'd be great.
So in general, it's as you know, we've just started our project with Workday. So we've launched the software in December, and we're very happy with how smooth things are going internally, and it clearly helps us to reconcile our P&L and our financial data in a real-time basis. In general, what was very important for us when implementing the software was a very easily adjustable, to ensure that the business processes are easily adjustable to fit our needs. And in fact, because we are a very fast growing software and tech company, very fast changing needs. And on the other side, I would say it clearly helps us also the massive, I would say, the fast growing transaction volumes that we're seeing from customers and the millions of customers that we have around the world. It clearly helps us to get a stronger real-time view on how the business looks today. So far, what I've seen in the first couple of weeks is very positive, and I'm definitely looking forward to see more impact of the software in the next few weeks and months.
Tim, same question to you. Workday software. What have been the benefits from your point of view?
Yeah, so we're in a slightly different position. So we've actually been live with Workday for, I think, almost 8 years. So we were actually one of the first customers of Workday to go with their finance module. So it's pretty much well embedded within our organization, and it's used by all of our regions. So now we have all of our financial data, all of our HR data, all of our recruitment data in one place. And from that, we're able to augment it with other data and also build dashboards that we need to have a real source of truth cutting across all of these areas in one place. So for us, it really helps that we have it. We have this one source of truth because we know we don't have to spend time reconciling it. I think before you had separate systems with HR and recruitment data and finance data in different places, and you would actually waste time doing reconciliations. We now also can have a real-time view as to how things are going, and I think for us, that's how how Workday's really helped us. Also, because everyone's used it or using it across the globe, we've been able to standardize a lot of our processes with the finance teams and with the HR teams. So that's also really helped us.
So I'm really intrigued to get both of your thoughts on the next question. Clearly, resilience is something that everyone in business is talking about, and it's going to become, I think, a key aspect of every kind of conversation in every boardroom. Clearly, though, you are both in very, very fast-moving. Finance is a fast-moving industry. How do you, and Georg, maybe you could start with this, please. How do you best balance that speed you need in order to be this incredibly fast-growing startup in a real-time environment? You need that agility. How do you balance that with the resilience now that we all have to have in business?
Yeah. So in reality, the needs of a business change over time, and that's why also the need for the balance between speed and agility does change. I think that's where the importance of flexibility of a software comes in. And in terms of how to decide where you are in the need of balance and resilience and speed, it's clearly that there are trade-offs need to be made. The question is just which type of trade-offs. At the point when we were in a hyper-growth phase, where we were adding hundreds of thousands of customers on a monthly basis, especially when we're entering a new market, for example, the United States about 1.5 years ago, it's really important to be fast, because otherwise it would be very difficult to take management decisions for a market where we have hardly any data. So here speed is clearly important. At the same time, for very established markets, such as, for example, Germany, the agility of making sure that we serve very different types of customers and we can really deep dive into specific aspects of the data is more important than the speed of getting constantly new type of data.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, Georg. Thank you. Tim, I'm really interested to get from you actually your sense of obviously you're in a very heavily regulated industry, and integrating new pieces of regulation through the business is always going to be sort of tricky. How do you do that with the minimum of disruption?
Yeah, so we operate within the financial markets. We are probably one of the most heavily regulated industries to operate within. And because we trade on over 100 trading venues around the world, we actually have numerous regulators that we have to make sure that we adhere to their rules. Some of the rules are take quite a lot of effort to implement. So we take it very seriously. In all of our regions, we have compliance teams that are solely responsible for making sure that we know the rules, and secondly, that we are then compliant with the rules. And for big things that we know are coming, I think the way that we deal with it is just planning. So some things, I can give you an example. Last year in Europe, there was something called MiFID II regulations that came out. They went live, I think, on January the 3rd, 2019. It's not an option not to be ready. You have to be ready at that point. And the way that we were able to do that was to start early, have a good analysis on how it could affect us, and then over time, make sure we put things in place to ensure that we were ready on January 2019. So for us, it's not an option not to be compliant with the regulations, and we take it very seriously and have the teams and also the resources to deal with that.
Georg, you've got a huge amount of organizational data, well, a huge amount of data, a huge amount of organizational data as well. I'm intrigued for you to maybe speak to the audience a little bit about on any advice you might have about how to best optimize the measurement of organizational data and how you can then translate that into really actionable insights?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, this will really differ across companies, and it's every company truly has to understand the drivers of their own business, of their own organization, that really matter to them. For us, for example, it's important since we grew very quickly, people data was very important because on the one side we operate in very different legislations across different markets. So in our office in Berlin, there might be different standards as in our office in Barcelona or Vienna, and or New York. And on the other side, it's we just basically had to understand what we really want to understand. And for example, since one of the objectives is to hire the best possible talents, that's actually not that's not the full goal. The full goal is to hire and retain the best talent. So what's important is that the recruiting team understands not only what percentage of offers we give out are actually accepted by candidates down the road, but also how do those people perform down the line, and are we able to retain those talents we get into the company? Because a typical pitfall of fast-growing consumer companies is the recruiting team gets a lot of smart people on top of top of the funnel into the company, and then 6 months or 8 months down the line they drop out because they either are not set up for success or are not happy in the organization or not happy with the role. So connecting data across the entire people organization and not only look at isolated recruiting KPIs is important to grow a company organically and put employee satisfaction truly first.
Yeah, thank you, Gil. That makes a lot of sense. And Tim, back to you now. Clearly, you've talked about how COVID has created a lot of volatility in markets. I think it'd be really interesting to hear you talk a little bit how you leverage data for scenario planning and coping with the unexpected. How do you think about that?
Yeah, so we have very extensive risk systems that operate within our own worlds, and those risk systems are responsible for calculating what our possible risks could be in a month or whatever. So a good example of this is it's called a value at risk calculation. What does that do? It looks at all of your positions, so the things that you hold at a particular moment, and then it can calculate what your risk is of losing something, say in a month's time. So we do, and actually, when I first joined IMC a number of years ago, this was something that would happen overnight, and the calculation was just so onerous. It would take 8 hours to be able to create a proper number for VAR for the company. So we now are able to consume vast amounts of data of all of our positions, then possible price movements based on historical data, based on whatever, and process that to create a real-time VAR. So we have a real view as to what our risk is at that moment. And then if something happens, there's still a human element. So if something goes above what we expect it to be, then somebody can step in and then take the right steps to reduce our risk. So leveraging data to reduce our risks is actually a key thing in what we're doing.
And I'm intrigued to get both of you to think a little bit about the future now. If you look forward about to the challenges, the opportunities that you face in your different businesses, how could a software vendor like Workday support you to meet these challenges and opportunities? Maybe Georg, we could hear from you first, please.
Yeah. So for us, one of the biggest challenges as a fast-growing tech company is forecasting. Because if you're shooting for the moon, it's and essentially anyway plan to either double or triple in any given year, it's sometimes still extremely important to understand what's the delta to our forecast, especially because we also have to hire for that. It's so in especially, for example, for customer service, is one of those functions that actually requires, if you have more customers, it does require more. It does require more people. So it does make a difference whether or not we grow by 4 million or 3 million customers, or potentially 6 million customers in the next 6 months. And for us, it clearly helps to have a stronger and faster way of adapting our forecasting models. At the same time, also connecting different forecasts. For example, the financial plan with the growth plan and the people hiring plan, to connect all of them to understand if we change one variable. Let's say we grow by an additional 1 million customers in the next 6 months, and what does this mean for our financials? What does it mean for our people and onboarding schedule?
Thank you. Same question to you, Tim. How can Workday support the challenges and opportunities you see upcoming in the coming months and years?
Yeah, so the way I see companies like Workday fit in, we have a big tech footprint ourselves within our company, but we want our tech footprint to focus on our front end business. And how companies like Workday can come in is that they can basically give us the sort of commoditized technical ability to be able to run our finance operations and our HR operations as efficiently as possible. And also, when I look at finance and HR and also recruitment, we need to have the right data available. So we want systems and companies like Workday to be able to give us that data real time, so we can then make decisions on that data. Automation is also a challenge or an opportunity for us. So within all of our functions, we're looking to automate as much as possible. That then gives the finance controller time to actually analyze the data that you're given. I mean, you can get too much data, and if you don't have time to look at it, then there's no point in having it in the first place. So companies like Workday, with their focus on automation, and also with their focus on introducing new technology to, say, the finance world, helps us give our financial controllers or our HR operational people the time to actually look at and then act upon any data that they're getting from these systems. Because a lot of the operational work that they would be doing before is taken away from them by systems such as Workday.
Okay, great, guys. We're pretty much out of time, but I have one final question for both of you. And really, it's, thinking about people out there watching, what 3 key pieces of advice do you have for the audience in terms of how they can unlock value from data to optimize that connection between the front end of the front end of the operation and the back office, obviously taking into account the very fast changing nature of your businesses? So maybe, Georg, we could hear your tips first, please.
Yeah. So the number one priority is to really understand the customer need, to understand what problem you're really solving for. Because too often data is collected, or we try to artificially solve a problem that really isn't a problem, or can be solved in a much better or faster way. The second aspect is to understand how to really rethink processes internally, and don't just try to tack on a new module or new software onto an existing monolith. And because way too often we actually add complexity by adding new software, rather than just really rethinking how we process analytics. And last but not least, analytics and data is not just a tool topic, it's a mindset topic. So you really have to invest into training and development of your team to enable them to really use that data and use the tools, because otherwise even the best possible tool and the best available data won't help you to solve your problems.
Thank you, Georg. Tim, your 3 tips, please.
Yeah, so I would say it's important to get the data that people need to the people that can interpret it and understand it as simply as possible. So don't try and make some complex ecosystem up. Don't try and make it too big. Start small to get the data that they need to make decisions on. Have a clear sense or source of truth. So I think in the past there's been all these data silos. They're all operating individually, and sometimes they're coming up with different answers. So have one source of truth. That very much helps in terms of knowing that the decisions that you're making are the correct decisions. And then I think having the people there to be able to actually interpret the data, simple KPIs that really are meaningful for your business, and they understand them. So sometimes I think you can get a case where there's just too many KPIs and no one really knows which ones to follow. So a few simple KPIs which really show where your business is going are the important ones to first focus upon.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, guys, but thank you so much for sharing your insights today. It's been a fascinating conversation. I think that people will have got a lot of value out of it, and they really, I think, hopefully have gone away with some really actionable insights. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you out there for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.